Hey guys, Gary J. It is the merry month of May. It's a beautiful day today. I think it was about 80 degrees. It's about 7 o'clock. And I thought I'd get on the beast here. My Vulcan 1500 with straight pipes, Vance Hines. And I'll take a little ride since it's really a beautiful day. And just had the bike in the shop. Actually, it wouldn't crank, and I checked the relay on it, and the relay seemed to be okay on it. It wouldn't crank. Turned out to be the starter switch on the handlebar right here. I don't know where they got the starter switch at, but that was about $104 for the starter switch. And which, you look at the starter switch, you say it could be that. I took that out to look at it, but I didn't take it apart. It might have been just the little terminals on there that needed to be cleaned or whatever. But I checked the relay and had a blowed fuse on the relay, which is on the other side of the bike over here, which is real easy to replace. It only costs like 15 to 20 bucks for a whole relay. That relay controls like a lot of different stuff, from your starter to that kickstand here. It'll cut off the bike, you know, if you have the kickstand down, you put it in drive, which is a great thing there. I don't know how many people have crashed because of that, especially making a left turn. But so I had to take it to shop for that, because there's a lot of things you can try to figure out, whether it's this right here, which is real easy to take off. I only got a couple of screws holding this on. Take that off and look at the switches, but you can't get into the switch itself. And I looked on the internet and I could not find a switch, just a starter switch. So I don't know, maybe they did pay. I know they didn't pay $104 for that thing. But again, you can buy the whole relay system here for 15, 20 bucks on eBay, brand new. So anyway, so it cost me about $220 for them to run it down and find out what the problem was, and to replace that switch. 220 bucks. I said, well, go ahead and service the bike while it's in there, you know. And I'll have a list I'll show you on what they did to service the bike. They changed the oil in it. I had Ames oil. Ames oil is good for like 15,000 miles. 15,000 miles. So that's real good oil. I use that in my Gold Wing. It's about $14, $15 a quart for Ames oil. So that's like 3 quarts, I think, in this bike. So, and then an oil filter, that's like $55, and they charge you about $50 probably to change it out, which I normally change the oil myself, but since it was in the shop. And so they did a full check on the bike and adjusted the cables and on the brakes and the clutch, and you know, just kind of go through the bike completely. So everything was good on the bike except for a brake light switch on the pedal. So I got to order a brake light switch off of eBay and put the brake light switch here. Well, might be able to lubricate it and it'll work. I don't know. I'll try that. So I just got the bike back, really. And got those Vance Hines. I'm going to tell you what, Vance Hines is loud. They are really loud. And when I got it back from the shop, it was running rough. Real rough. I mean, it cut off on me a couple of times when I stopped. And the guy didn't push one of the spark plug wires all the way on. So that's what that was. I felt like it was running on 3 cylinders instead of 4. And so it's running great after I did that. But I was thinking, like, what in the world do y'all do this bike? Because it's not running good at all. So anyway, that's what it was. And today's first day I've taken it out really to check it out and make sure that that's what it was. So the bike looks good. And we're right here close to a railroad track. But the Vulcan 1500 is a great bike. One of the things about the Vulcan 1500 is that when you first get on a Vulcan 1500 or one of these Kawasaki's like this, it reminds me of a first time I heard a diesel engine. Well, you listen to gasoline engine and they run smooth, you know, very smooth like a sewing machine. You listen to a diesel engine for the first time, guess what happens? You listen to that diesel engine, it sounds like the engine is about to fly apart. Like the valve lifters are all stuck and metal on metal and something fixing to break loose, you know. You don't even want to hang around the engine on a diesel, first time you ever hear one in a car. So, when I first got the Vulcan 1500, I cranked that thing up and it sounded like it was fixing to fly apart. Well, this is a 96, built on the 1950 Harley Davidson style, which I love the 1950 Harley Davidson. You see that look right there? That's priceless. So, I didn't have a manual for the bike, so I went on the internet and downloaded the manual. You can get the Kawasaki manual for your Vulcan Classic, and right here you see Vulcan Classic. I like that color too. Anyway, you can download the manual PDF file free. So I downloaded that and I made a copy of it. And one of the first things I read in the first part of the manual was that on the Vulcan 1500s that it makes a lot of weird noises. They tell you that in the manual. It makes all kind of weird sounds. And they said, don't worry about that, that's normal. So they addressed that problem. Well, not a problem, but to concern owners that this bike is not going to blow up. It's just the way just the sounds they make. So that's the unique thing about the Kawasaki. It just sounds like it's going to blow apart, but that's normal for these things. So if you got one and it makes all these weird metal grinding like sounds, that's normal. Okay, if you have one of these bikes too, I would say, it's been a long time since I've done a video on this one. I think you definitely want a tachometer. The tachometer, this one is about $175 or $80 for the tachometer, and it's easy to take the gas tank off, and you can wire it up yourself. But I had some more work done to this bike at one time, so I just had them. I bought the tachometer and had them put that on there while they were working on the bike. But usually they tell me these bikes get 100,000 miles with no problem. You never know who had the bike before you did, before you bought it. So you don't know how they rode it or took care of it or anything, but it only had 13,000 miles on it when I bought it. And I got 21,000 miles on it now. And it's got a radio. Here's the speaker, bullet type speakers here. You can put these on these bikes, which sound pretty good. And I put this little gadget right here, like for your GPS and stuff. And that's your 12-volt receptacle here, socket. And then you got a USB right here. And then you got a switch right here. You can turn that switch on to turn it on. I keep it off. And this watertight cover right here. So that's good to have for, you know, when you're traveling or something like that, for GPS or charging your cell phone, whatever. And this cup holder right here, these are really nice cup holders. They're expensive, about $80 for one of those type of cup holders. And this bib right here, I put that on there. And it's got pedals, and they come with, this model comes with the floorboards on there, which is nice. But bike runs good, it looks good to me. Now today I'm using a helmet I bought years ago. I've never worn this helmet. First time I ever wore this helmet right here. Beautiful helmet, brand spanking new, not a mark on it. And this helmet, I don't like full face helmets, and I know that's stupid, okay? You need a full face helmet if you ride a motorcycle, if you got good sense. I just don't like anything covering my face. I use like the half helmets or less. But anyway, this is a really, really nice helmet. And I bought it originally from a gold wing because I thought I was going to buy a burgundy gold wing, but I bought a yellow gold wing. The sun's starting to go down a little bit, so I've got a little light kit on this bike around the engine, and it's got a little remote here, and it gives you about 21 different modes of flashing lights, from solid to blinking, fast, slow. You can adjust it all kind of ways. Let's see what it's set on here. We have a few different colors there. And this is not really dark yet, so this is probably the best lighting kit I've seen for the money. And that's just one set right there. And I don't think the camera's picking it up all the way. Let's see if we get any closer. Those are all different colors right there, but I've got one underneath the tank, and I got one here and one here, as you can see. When we flip it off, back on, we can change the colors. This is a different color pattern, but that may look a little better. You can change it again, another different color. Another pattern. And these are all flashing here, so. And you get solid color if you want just one color, like green, blue, orange. That's green and red. And that's blue and red. And that's orange and red. And that's a green and blue type color. A green and orange. It just keeps going on and on like that. All different colors. And this is your strobe effect here. You can speed that up, you can slow it down. Mainly I got this going through intersections. And you go through an intersection, they can at least see your bike, maybe your engine, and let's see if it, I cut the light down. This is about what it looks like right now, taking the phone's auto illumination off. I have to give you a description of this because this was like 65 bucks for this set, and it comes with 6 of these plastic sticks that stick on, and they're well insulated, and this thing's always worked great since I've had it. And 6 of these sticks, LED glow sticks I think it's called, for about 60 bucks. And a lot of places want like $120 for a set of glow sticks or something similar to this, but this one's got so many different patterns you can do with it. So yeah, it looks good to me. Now on the other side, exhaust is, this is kind of what it looks like here. I've got one underneath the tank on this side too. And And actually when it's really dark, it really puts out a lot of light. Okay guys, we parked the bike. It is dark out here. We got one mercury light out there, but you can kind of get a better idea of how bright these LED lights are on this bike on the side. And that's without all the other lights off on the bike. And we got about 21 different combinations we can use on this, and we can make it strobe slow or fast or freeze it, however we want to do it. So it does put out a lot of light on the side, especially going through like an intersection or something like that. And here we just turned on the running lights. You see the tail light and the front blinker lights are on. So they can be pretty bright right there. Now this bike is as loud as any Harley Davidson with these straight pipes on it. And I'll let you hear this. Now the cell phones will cut down the sound. If it's too loud, they won't let you hear the true sound. That's just the way they're made. So you won't really hear it quite as loud as it really is. It's about, from what I've heard on my cell phone, it's about 4 times louder in person. Clunking sound, sounds like a Harley a little bit, but you hear all kind of noises riding this thing besides the exhaust. It makes you wonder if something's going to fly off of this, but again, that's just the way they are. The Vulcan 1500, awesome bikes. Hey guys, Gary J here, and what we're looking at is a service record of the Vulcan 1500. Now this is a Vulcan 1500 Classic. This is the Classic version, and it's 1988 model. And on older motorcycles, I try to keep this one up in mint condition, and so you want to make sure they're taken good care of. And I think maybe every 5 years, to me, is a good time to have the bike serviced by a professional. And they go in and they check all your cables and linkages and all of that stuff, and brakes and fuel hoses and everything through there. At least that's what they're supposed to do anyway. So, and replace your spark plug. And we'll look at a list of stuff that they do. But it's good to have that done at least once every 5 years on these older bikes, and it gives you some peace of mind, I think. So on the Vulcan 1500 Classic right here, it would not start when I wanted to crank it up. It turned over, but it was too slow in turning over. I put a new battery in it. The new battery didn't turn it over. I heard it click, and I didn't know if it was in the push button starter on the handlebar or the starter relay, or a bad wire between the starter button on the handlebar to the starter relay, or a bad wire between the relay and the starter motor or solenoid or the starter itself. Unless you have some of the electrical tools that you need to check that out with, it's kind of difficult to do. I'm not good with that kind of stuff. Some things I can handle, but some things it's just not worth it. will mention that the starter relay is on the right-hand side of the Vulcan 1500. It's really accessible. You can replace that thing in probably 20 minutes. It's real easy to get to. It's only got a couple of wires at the top, a couple of cable wires, junction wires at the bottom. Real easy fix. I mean, a child can do that. The starter relay runs about $20 on the internet, brand new. So it's a real easy fix. If you've got a problem with your starters and you think, well, it could be the starter relay because it's older, right? Just spend the $20 and replace that. It's just real simple to do. It takes 20 minutes. It's really accessible. And if it doesn't crank up, then you know it's not that, but you probably needed to replace the starter relay anyway. I took the starter switch off the handlebar and lubricated that like with some diode spray, and thought maybe they could clean the terminals in there. But it didn't help because it's kind of hard to get into the switch itself because they will corrode in there, the contacts, and I don't know, you can probably take one of those switches apart, but you just need to replace the switch. So, I mean, it could have been a lot of different things wrong with it. But anyway, this is what was wrong with it. And right here, the switch. Now, the little bitty starter switch, they charged me $110 for, or $111. A little bitty starter switch. Now, I looked on the internet. I could not find that starter switch by itself, so maybe they had to get it from Kawasaki. I don't know. And they charged for labor $105 for labor. Well, if you're tracing an electrical issue, I can see where you would spend maybe an hour trying to find where the electrical problem is. The starter, the relay, the solenoid, the switch, all that stuff. So I would say, at $105, that's an hour's worth of work. It took me that long to try to fix the thing myself. So that's not a problem. Switch to me was a problem. The $110 for the switch on the handlebar, just that one little tiny switch, which I replaced my brake light switch on the front on that handlebar, and it was only like $8 for the brake light switch, and it's only $20 for the whole relay, which is a very complicated part of the starter system. It controls the kickstand and other safety measures of the bike. So, I mean, that's only $20. So I don't know what they had to pay for the switch. I know they made a profit off of it. So, anyway, so I ended up with like $223 for that. So, that's the price you pay. At least the switch has been replaced. Hopefully that's what they did, was replace the switch. I haven't really had too much problem with this particular place. It's a motorcycle dealership, but they are high. It's $108 an hour in motorcycle shop. So at least this one. And I've known some of the guys there that do a good job. And then I had the oil change. Now, when they do their basic service of checking your bike, there are a lot of different things they look for, and we'll look at that real quick. But had the oil change, use Ames oil. Ames oil can last up to 15,000 miles on the bike. It's just a really great oil. Here, Ames oil is $14 a quart. Sometimes you pay $15 a quart. And the washer drain, 12 millimeter place, gear oil differential. They check the oil in the differential, added gear oil to that. Oil filters like $10. So you really got about $50 in the oil change stuff. Well, not 50, but what, $65 or $70 for the oil and the oil filter. Now, generally, I changed the oil myself on it, but this time it was in the shop, and I said, well, let them do that. So that's what we did, and they changed the spark plugs in it too, because it is older bike. It's in 1998. Here is a basic service here. Now, on the older bikes, I would say if you're not doing this yourself, and you can make a copy of this, freeze it on your screen. But you need all these things checked on an older bike, because these things, if they dry rot or whatever, you got a serious problem sometimes. But the steering check, the brake hose connections, that's very important. Brake fluid levels, brake lining, pad wear. They can check and see how much pad wear you got, whether you need to replace all that. Brake adjustment, and the brake light check. He's got on here something about the brake pedal. When you press on the brake pedal, it's not turning on the brake light. The handlebar brake switch is working fine, but the brake pedal light switch is not working. And you check for wears and cracks. Tire pressure, front fork seal leaks, no leaks there. Rear shock leaks, none there. Swing arm pivot lube, check. Clutch fluid level check. Clutch adjustment, didn't have to do anything with that. It was fine. Final gear case oil drain and refill. They did that. Yes. Drive shaft joint lubricant. They didn't do anything with that. Evidently that was okay, or they checked it. Chain adjust, nothing you can do about the chain, because it doesn't have a chain drive, doesn't have a belt drive. Spark plugs replaced. On an older bike, it doesn't have that many miles on it, but it's like 23,000 miles. But, it's an older bike, so replacing the spark plug is not a bad idea. Air cleaner, clean. I'll just buy an air filter for it, because they'd probably charge me double for that. They just blew it out with air hose. Engine oil drain, refill, engine oil filter, replace, fuel hoses, check. That's a good thing to check on these bikes, is the fuel, because these little chipmunks, I've had them chew through a fuel line. You run the bike for a while, and all of a sudden it starts leaking. These little chipmunks like to chew on everything. And throttle control system, they check that, make sure that all that's tight and good. Coolant level check. Radiator. Now, if you run out of coolant level, or it's too low, or it looks terrible, I've had them like flushed. Last time I took my Gold Wing, a couple of years ago, had my Gold Wing radiator flushed. That was kind of expensive there, but it needed to be done on the Gold Wing when I had it serviced. Headlights, low beam, high beam, tail lights, check. Turn signal checks, wheel spokes. A lot of the stuff here you can do yourself. Nuts and bolts, fasteners. That's a good thing, because you get a lot of vibration on a motorcycle. You get a lot of vibration on a Vulcan 1500, more so than a Honda or Suzuki or these other bikes. They all have vibration, but to me, the Vulcan 1500 runs really kind of weird. It's kind of like a Harley Davidson. It just shakes really hard. General lubrication points, road tests, which they don't really do a good road test. They just have to run around in the parking lot, but valve adjustment, not necessarily this. These are some of the things that you really want to check, and these are very important things right here. And we're just you can kind of like freeze this right here and check your bike yourself on this stuff right here. And now I feel good about the bike. The bike's got really good tires on it. I spent a lot of money on the tires a few years ago, about 3 years ago or so. So the bike's got really good tires on it. So the brakes and everything is tip-top shape on this bike right now, except for the brake pedal switch. I buy one off the web for that and put that on. Okay, so the damage here on the price was $472, and that seems expensive in one way. In one way, it's not expensive. The Kawasaki is a low maintenance bike. Generally never have to have anything done to the Kawasaki much, and they just make a lot of weird noises. That's the only complaint I have about them. And I don't know if that's really a complaint. It's just I'm not used to engines sounding like they're about to fly apart, but that's just normal for Kawasaki. And I mean, those bikes, you can get 100,000 miles on them pretty easy. So they are a low maintenance bike though. So $472 now. Again, for the starter switch was like 110, and the labor was 110, which that's a flat rate like $108 an hour for a motorcycle mechanic at the dealership. So anyway, like $220 of that went toward the switch and tracking that down. I put a new battery in it. That was like 100. Gee, that battery is one of the better batteries that AutoZone makes, one of the best, and it was like $130 for the battery. So every once in a while on these older bikes, you just got to go through them and have this maintenance checked and repair whatever's going wrong with it. The only thing wrong with the bike now is that it needs the brake pedal switch for the brake light, which I'll order that. Well, I'm going to try to see if I can lubricate that and see if that'll work just by lubricating that switch. Sometimes that'll work. If that works, then I don't have to replace the switch yet. But the switch is only like maybe $25 on the internet. So, I mean, whatever I have to do, we'll do that. Well, I hope that, just give you some idea on the maintenance of these bikes right here and things that you have to do. And it only happens once in a while that, you have a problem with these bikes. Most time I have some videos on things that I've repaired on these bikes myself. The turn signals on the front, I had to replace those. The turn signals on the back, I had to replace those because that rubber dry rots. That's a normal thing, older bikes. Not the big deal to do that. And other things I've done to the bike, the brake light switch on the handlebars, real easy fix. And a few other things, I guess. But anyway, just want to give you some idea, share that with you, that you need to make sure that your motorcycle is in tip-top shape. And maybe every 5 years you may want to have a full maintenance job done like this. It costs you a couple $100, but you feel pretty good about people, hopefully, that they did what they're supposed to do and checking everything and filling up reservoirs and all that, especially on the differential. Now, a lot of stuff you can do yourself. You don't have to do that. But that list I showed you, you can go by that list and make sure that you check your bike out real well, save yourself some money. And there are plenty of YouTube videos on how to replace differential fluid, which is real easy to do. And some of us, depending on how busy you are sometimes, it's easier just to take it to the shop and let them do some of that. I always do my oil changes myself because it's real easy to do, and it saves you a good bit of money. Remember, $108 an hour at a motorcycle shop for them to work on your bike. So you can save yourself a considerable bit of money and only use the dealership when you absolutely have to. Hope this helps you out a little bit, guys, and keep your bike safe and don't skimp on your tires or brakes and other things. Make sure that's all tip-top shape. Thanks for watching. Gary J.